Hello, everyone. Welcome back to DGS Presents. Today, I thought I would do something fun and look back at some of the earliest modules that actually came out for first edition Dungeons and Dragons. And really, back then, it was original D&D or white box or brown box, which is the earliest incarnation. And the technically earliest dungeon kit that was actually released was the Temple of the Frog, and that appeared in the Blackmore supplement. And it basically was a short adventure, right? Famous by Dave Arneson. It would come out later, probably like over 10 years later, as an official dungeon module for TSR. And it was very, very simple. It was just basically this temple with some rooms in it and some monsters that appeared within the context of the Blackmore set. But the first module that was actually released independently for TSR, for Dungeons and Dragons, was actually Palace of the Vampire Queen. And this was by a company called We Warriors, and I mean, what a great thing, because I just love vampire. Especially vampire queens. But this module is very, very interesting because it is a 5-level dungeon, and it contains monsters and stuff in it, but it's very, very primitive. Some of the rooms are empty. There's treasure and everything inside the module, but it's extremely simplistic compared to today's standards, or even really the standards of the late 70s and in the early 1980s. Now, more about We Warriors. They did release other things for Dungeons and Dragons for TSR, but none of them are really licensed. They were kind of distributed in hobby shops for Dungeons and Dragons for players who really were looking for something to play, because up until the Steeding of the Hill Giant Chief, right, the first of the Giant series, there really were no published adventures for Dungeons and Dragons. So here we have some of their other things that they released: Dwarven Glory and this other thing called the Misty Isles, and I think they all take place in this setting that was called Baelor, which was like a dwarven island. And again, the company was called We Warriors, and it was a very small outfit. The Palace of the Vampire Queen was written by Pete and Judy Karastan, with art from Brad Schenk. And I think at one point they were selling this module basically out of the trunk of their car, because it was such a small outfit. But it did sell okay for the most part. And again, TSR did distribute these until they came out their official licensed products and everything, and then they went to a more formal model. Now, Palace of the Vampire Queen did go through a bunch of different printings. There's like 6 printings of it, and the first one basically had a black cover with just red writing on it. Some of the other ones had slightly different covers, similar art. There wasn't too big of a difference between them. Again, there's black and white, and we're going to look at it a little bit closer. But it did go through actually 6 printings before finally We Warriors went out of business, I think around 1978 or 1979. Let's see, what else do I have here? So, a little bit later on, just as a side note, Pacesetter Games actually came out, re-released this Palace of the Vampire Queen in like 2019. They had like an updated copy of it, or iteration of it. They added a few things. Also, North Texas RPG Convention came out with their own reprinting of Palace of the Vampire Queen for their attendees not that long ago. So what does this actually look like? Well, let's take a look, and let's first of all let's get the background for this module. So we see here that this is from the actual module. It says, for 3 centuries, the peasants of the dwarvish island of Baelor, and it's that Baelor which the other modules also take place in, have feared the raids of the Vampire Queen and her minions, sweeping down from the night, from the palace In the shrouded peaks of the island, they range ever farther in search for blood, and not only for blood. The children of dwarf peasants often disappear if they are so unfortunate as to be out at night. Even the cities are no longer safe. The most recent victim was the princess of Baelor, daughter of the king Armen, who was taken in a midnight raid on the capital of the city of Arto within the past weeks. And then King Armen has offered fabulous riches and land holdings, right, to your adventurers. If you are to go out and basically brave the palace of the Vampire Queen and save the princess. So this is a save the princess module. Now, if we take a look at the module directly here, we see here is the classic reprint, and this is Precise Intermedia or Precise Intermedia has this reprint for sale. I'll put the link in the description, the show notes, for you guys to check that out. It's still out there. It's for sale. But here's the module itself, and you'll notice that as we go through here, it's kind of interesting because, again, there's 5 levels to this. And what we start with are the monsters with the room codes. And it says max damage for the monsters. And the first time I saw this, I was like, max damage? What is this, the max damage that the monster can do? No, it's actually the hit points of the monster. And you do need the white box D&D, right? Or in some cases, the Eldritch Wizardry supplement too, the men and monsters, all this kind of stuff, in order to look up these creatures. Again, this is basically advanced Dungeons and Dragons. Right? This is OD&D, basically, is white box. So if we look on the key here, we see the monsters, but it doesn't give us all the stats. It just gives us basically their hit points, and also gives us the contents of the individual room. And what do these rooms look like? Well, let's fast forward a little bit to the first map for level 1, and we see that. Notice those doors on this map. This is the old school way of basically creating maps where you indicated which way the door opened, which is I thought was kind of funny because I had a vague recollection of this when I was playing back when I was a kid, and I was like, oh, I looked back at this and it was like, oh yeah, those doors, yeah, that's how we used to do it. So here's the DM's map of level 1, and notice we don't even have a picture of what the vampire palace actually looks like from the outside. Was it like a castle ruin? Is it some sort of like cave complex? Or we don't even know. So you can use your imagination as a DM, and you can come up with something like some sort of castle ruin that you present the players with as like a illustration or picture of some kind. But this is the actual map for the adventure, and the players themselves are also given player maps, which have the rooms in there, but they don't have any codes or contents or anything. So the players fill in. They just put in their notes about what the creature was and in which room. And there's no rules in this adventure for basically wandering monsters or monsters leaving their rooms and doing anything in particular. It's kind of like the game Dungeon from back in the day, where you just travel around, you kick in the door, you fight the monster, and you get the treasure. Moving on, we see there's also dungeon level 2 here. We see there's zombies, there's green slime in here. There's also evil magicians. They have 17 hit points, so I don't know, what would they be like with the D4? So they'd be maybe the 5th level. It might be like 5th level wizards that you have to fight, right? So that might be kind of dangerous. They don't indicate what spells the wizards have. You just have to kind of, as a DM, assign them spells as you wish. So here's the next level, right? With the codes. There's a player map. We move in here to level 3, where we have some other creatures like ghouls. There's trolls, and notice some of the rooms are just completely empty. There's no monster and there's no treasure, which that's just the way it is, I guess. I guess you could put something in there if you wanted to as a DM. And then we go down to levels 3 and 4. The creatures obviously get more and more dangerous as we go on. Black puddings. There are vampires that begin to appear. The hit points of the vampires here. We have a couple vampire guards. It's like 29 hit points, 35 hit points. Relatively kind of weak, vampires. It's not until you get right down into like levels 4 and 5 where you start getting into really scary stuff. Like the vampire ladies in waitings, and they're they're inside their coffins or they're in the coffin room. And then we have, for instance, actually, before we get to the Vampire Queen, I believe on somewhere in here there was a like a Balrog. Let me see if I can. I thought it was on level 5. Maybe my banner is blocking it. Let me see here. I don't see the Balrog. Where is he? Oh, there he is. He is in room 5. So if we go back, or we go forward. So if we look at room 5, this one down here in the lower left-hand corner, there's a Balrog in there. And the Balrog was basically, it was in the Men and Monsters supplement. It was referred to in there. And later on, it was an Eldritch Wizardry as a Type 6 demon. It ultimately became the Balor that we found in later editions of D&D. But that's a very tough creature, right? The Balrog. And then finally, we have the Vampire Queen herself, and she has 40 hit points. It says Queen turns into a bat and escapes if door is not shut behind the party. If the Queen escapes, she goes to the dwarf princess, if still alive, and threatens her life if the parties will not let the Vampire Queen go free. Now, if we look back in the monsters, the Men and Monsters supplement, we see here that this is the description that vampires, these monsters are properly the undead class, right? And in here that the special skills, they drain 2 life energy levels, right? Like just like later AD&D version, as do specters when they hit a opponent. They regenerate during combat, as do trolls, but they do so immediately upon being hit at the rate of 3 hit points per turn. Vampires can command help by calling to them 10 to 100 rats or bats, or from 3 to 18 wolves, and they can polymorph themselves into either a huge bat or gaseous form. So it's all here. It's just basically in a just a paragraph form. So you didn't get that formal presentation like we see in the Monster Manual, and of course like the Holmes edition, and then Red Box and all that stuff. BX basically. So this is old school like white box, brown box D&D. So yeah, that is the Palace of the Vampire Queen, and again, I will put a link to where you can get it if you want to incorporate this stuff into your game. And some of these other adventures might be fun too, like the Misty Isles and Dwarven Glory. They all take place on this same island setting, but it could be very fun to add this to your existing old school game if you so choose. So with that, this is just a really short little episode because tonight or tomorrow I'm going out of town. I'll be out for a couple weeks. So I wanted to just give an update about what we're doing. We're getting back to looking at these old games and having some fun. So I will see you all next time.